Before we have a next break for coffee, we have a great honor to be entertaining a few other foreign guests here. We have people from Adobe, Johan Helgesson and Stephanie Maier. Johan works as a creative workflow lead. He's based in Sweden. And Stephanie comes here from London, and she's called UX UI evangelist. And I'm very much looking forward to see what sort of insights and tips they will share us about Adobe's products. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, can you guys hear me? Are you guys still awake? It's been a fantastic day, actually. I was so impressed with a couple of these presenters and their passion on this topic. As Lassie just said, my name is Johan Lopez Helgesson. Oh, great, some lights so you guys can see me. Yeah, so I work off of the Adobe office in Stockholm. I'm a software engineer with a lot of computer science degrees around human-computer interaction. Lately, I've been focusing on a lot of creating, workflows and production kind of concepts for big enterprises. Our topic is going to be about creativity in the age of AI, because you guys have heard so much, buzzwords about AI. I'm going to try to demystify some of it, and my colleague is going to be basically, I'm going to be doing a lot of waffling, and she's going to be doing the hands-on, kind of showing you what we've done. And we've chose Adobe XD, which is our premier kind of innovation tool here at Adobe. Raise your hands before I get on. Raise your hands, how many of you guys here work with user experience or any kind of a product development? So I can see, whoa, this is awesome. It's really good, because this is going to be your cup of tea. Okay, so let's get started. The thing that we work with a lot at Adobe is a concept that we call content velocity. Essentially, content velocity is all about, it's a concept. But content, as you guys know, it's content, producing something tangible, an artifact. And velocity is speed. How fast, as a designer, can you actually do something from A to B? And critically, in all the Creative Cloud software, you'll see that Adobe is trying to optimize your time to make sure that you work as fast as possible. And at the same time, we look at all of these challenges that you see out there. And these are real challenges, from Adobe's research that shows that you can read them all. But what I want to focus on mainly is that 75% of creative professionals spend more than 50% of their time on repetitive, non-creative tasks. And the way that Adobe looks at it is like, how can we make that disappear? How can we take this repetitiveness? How can we take the robot out of you guys and give you guys the ability and the time to work, on creative stuff, on fun stuff? So that's the time that we spend in terms of how we create our software, how we model our software, right? So just before we continue, artificial intelligence is such a buzzword, as I said, and this is such a good quote from Tom Goodwin. The guy that invented that quote, Uber, the biggest taxi company in the world, not owning a taxi, Airbnb, the biggest property company, but doesn't own any property. This is the guy, Tom Goodwin. He says this, and I love this, because it's become like this, right? Because if you don't have to go into details exactly what kind of algorithm you're using, it's some kind of a clever shit, and he uses algorithm, and that's what's nowadays is becoming AI, right? Seriously. But from an Adobe perspective, we like to think of AI this way, right? Our AI is actually to flip the word. This is actually from an Adobe engineering boss at Adobe Analytics. And he said, take the term AI, flip it, and call it IA, because that's what we're building. We're building intelligent assistants. So from a design perspective, from a designer perspective, don't worry about your job for many years to come, because the systems and the solutions, the intelligence that's built now in software, if you use Adobe Photoshop for the last 5-6 years, you've had a lot of algorithms, a lot of assistant technology to you. One thing is, how many of you uses content aware, to take away a background, and that's AI for you. It's been in Photoshop forever. right? Something as simple as that, okay? So that's demystified. From an Adobe perspective, you as a designer, if you use Adobe software, you don't have to worry about the fact that AI is going to take over it and take over your job. It's very simple as that. Okay, so we have, as every other company, we have a framework. We have a framework, artificial intelligence framework that's called Adobe Sensei. I'm going to be running a competition. We're going to give away a 12-month Creative Cloud kind of a subscription. Remember this name at the end when Stephanie is done, and the person that remember what this thing is called gets that subscription, okay? We can do it too. We'll do two. Lastly, just being generous here, we're going to do two kind of subscription if they remember what I'm talking about. So our framework is called Adobe Sensei, which is Japanese for teacher or master. It's, again, I accentuate the words that I want you guys to remember. It's technology that powers intelligent features across all of the Adobe products and some of the stuff that you're going to see as well, that Stephanie is going to be showing in Adobe XD. And it's there for giving you, it can leverage machine learning, it can leverage, natural language processing, whatever it may be, the algorithms are baked in to give you velocity, speed. So if focus on these areas, we're not going to be, we're a software company, we're a creative company. And we're not going to be focusing on anything else than just creativity. And this is the three core areas, computational creativity, experience intelligence, and content understanding. If I just focus on content understanding, it's basically Sensei or Photoshop or Illustrator or Lightroom being able to understand your context, understand the stuff that you're putting in front on your UI, on your canvas, and giving you assistance. Okay? So that's that. So we want to remove the robot from the person, not replace people with robots. Anti's one of the powers that he wanted to give you guys when he was showcasing those robots. I mean, as designers, I've been working in the web development and software engineering space since the 90s, and I've been doing a lot of clicking, And nowadays, you have a lot of other means to actually interact with software, either if it's touch, which we've done before, but, you can do AR, you can do voice. XD will be able to do a lot of, one of the first tools in the world as well that actually lets you as a UX designer to use your voice to create interaction, to create systems that can actually pretty much document it themselves in that way. So this is a key thing. We want to make sure that we take away the mundane tasks and actually get you guys to do the fun part. So the example use cases, since we have such a limited time, I'm not going to be able to show you any of the examples here, apart from the stuff that Stephanie is going to show you. But I want you guys to remember one thing. We're going to be around here as well, so we can talk and interact and network later on. But we have these couple of use cases. We have hundreds, seriously guys, hundreds of artificial intelligence or machine learning kind of algorithms in software right now. Some of them you're probably using on a day-to-day basis, you're not understanding it. One example is transformation. For example, if you work with e-commerce and you get 15,000 images of products with product IDs that needs to be matched, if it's product ID and images needs to be matched with copy that's be translated in like hundreds of languages. This is the kind of stuff that we transform to happen in seconds with the help of algorithms. Renditions, you're going to see a lot of renditions in terms of when we open the ecosystem for Adobe XD, where developers can come in and actually start grabbing the metadata of your assets that you're using from a user interface, but tapping in that with the rest of your production flow. So if you're using a layout or mobile application, and you can actually tap in through algorithms, through APIs, to do renditions to other areas than just the web or just mobile and so on. With that, I'm going to be transitioning over to you, Steph. I'm not going to steal too much of your time. This is the first time I actually was on time. Tommy, are you impressed? Oh my God, I have 1 minute left. I only planned to do 10 minutes. I normally talk so much, so I always miss it. But now, Steph, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Johan. Cool. Hi. And hi, everyone. So I'm going to be talking about Adobe XD, which is programmed to really make your work faster, and I'm going to show you some real-life examples. How many of you have worked with XD before? Few, yeah, great. So you know, and the others probably don't, XD is a vector-based design tool that lets you create wireframes as well as visual designs. It lets you create prototypes, interactive prototypes, also thanks to Amazon's Alexa, which is integrated in XD, voice prototypes, and it lets you collaborate with colleagues, with clients, and with developers. So our XD is produced by a global team around the world, which is based in San Francisco, Seattle, New York, and on the other half of the world in Bucharest and in Bangalore. So how do we build a feature? We really focus on the user. We have a really diverse community and we restless reinvent. We have this amazing page which is called User Voice. So if you have a wish, like a feature request, this is really the place where you can write your wish list. We have a whole team in San Francisco who is really going to respond to you. And if you search for a request, maybe someone else had the same wish, you can vote for it. And the one with the highest votes is most likely to get integrated into the next release. So XD is updated every month. So yeah, you might be able to see your wish in 1 month time. You don't have to wait a year like for Santa Claus. So before diving into solutions, we fully want to understand the problem. And our amazing feature, which is responsive resize, we first analyzed what are designers actually trying to do. And designers were doing this. Unfortunately, resizing this navigation bar deformed the icons, and that's obviously not what the designer wants to have. What the designer wants to have is this. So it constrained the proportions of all the icons, but it just resizes the bar. The same with a tablet design. So what the designer wanted to achieve was just with one simple click, scale it up into a desktop version. So how did we get there? We analyzed and defined some rules that the designer has already defined. So we constrained proportions, we constrained margins, paddings, and put that all into context and just resized what should be resized. So auto-animate, another brilliant, amazing feature that lets you create interactive prototypes, but in an animated way, so not very static. So for example, I have here this email transcript example. I click on it, I input my email, and I hit send, and I get this animation. So this is all just done with 2 artboards in XD. If you want to take this to another level, you can even create character animations, such as this. Again, this is only 2 artboards. And the cool thing is, if you want to take this even to another level, you can export After Effects files out of XD and fine-tune your animation. So, continue. Another cool thing is the share opportunity. So you can either invite to edit, which means you can add someone's email address, and then they have access to your cloud document and then can work with you in it. You can create a share for review link that creates like a website with a common functionality for your clients. And the share for development, which is my personal favorite, because it really you don't have to create design guidelines anymore. And I created so many design guidelines in my previous career, and God knows how many hours I've spent on that. So this just automates it and does it for you. And it not only obviously contains the information about what font style and what font size and stuff it has. Developers can also copy and paste a whole lot of CSS code out of this. The other thing is also you don't have to create every single icon as a PNG or as an SVG anymore and hand it over to your developers. They can just download it here and select whether they want to download it as SVG, PNG, or PDF. They can also see the entire flow that you have created in your app and see which links are connected to which flows. Then the last but not least is the plugin ecosystem. So plugins are third-party things that are integrated in XD that really are helpful to get some things done faster. We have over 150 plugins at the moment. Unfortunately, we don't have time for all of these, so I'm going to demo a few. So one of my favorites is the calendar. So how did I get from this screen to the other screen? I'm just going to get out of this view mode. And again, this whole presentation is done in XD, so you can also just create presentations if you like. So the calendar plugin is called Calendar, very smart, and you can either go back like to the past and select a month, or you can go to the future. And I'm going to select August here. I hit OK, and what I get is this panel. I can resize it. And when I go into my layers panel, I see this is all live text, and these are all real backgrounds that I can just change. And then all I have to do is to style it, and I get to this point. Another plugin that I would have loved would have been out earlier. I used to work on a mobile application before, which was a chatbot, which got translated into Swedish and Finnish. So I don't know either Swedish nor do I know Finnish. And I created this entire design in English. And when I then, by the end, got the translation sent, I realized that the words are a lot longer and don't fit into my speech bubbles here anymore. So World Ready is really cool. So this is my start of a chatbot to reset password. So all I have to do is I select this artboard, I run the plugin World Ready, I select the language I want to translate it to, so I select Finnish. There are also other languages such as Japanese or Chinese, which I think is also very difficult if you don't know it, how it would look, because it's a completely different font system. And I hit translate, and it just generates the second artboard in Finnish. And I can already see that not everything here fit into my text field. So I might want to make this a bit longer. This here is also completely cut off. So again, I see it doesn't really fit. And the same thing with this as well. No, this was fine. Yeah, so you see where it's going. So it really helps you really to estimate how it's going to look. And obviously, it uses, like when I go in here in World Ready again, you can select which translation engine you want. So there's also Microsoft and Google Translate. So it's not like a 100% accurate translation, but it helps you before you get the official translation just to estimate how it would look in your design and if it would still fit.
Yeah, this would have saved me so much time, you know, working with big interfaces, especially multilingual campaigns and so on, especially German, as you said, and Finnish. It's just
yes, Swedish and Finnish was my chatbot, and yeah, so it would have helped me a lot back then, and it would have saved me time. Then another cool plugin, I'm going to run this animation again, is Stark. I'm going to demo this as well, but let's remind ourselves of the beginning intro that I created of the XD bubbles. I created this as a seeing test. I don't know how many of you are actually able to recognize the XD signs in all the other bubbles, because about 4.5% of the world population is colorblind, so it's a very common condition, but not many people know about it, especially designers. And there's this plugin called Stark, and when you select your artboard and you run Stark, you can actually do a colorblind simulation. So I only knew before, yeah, there's some red, green, blue stuff going on, and be careful and so on, but I never really understood how these people would really see it. So here, there are 8 different types of colorblindness. I didn't even know there were different types of it. Now I do. And you just, you select one, and then it simulates exactly your artboard, how they would see it. If I choose another one, for example, then it runs it, and it simulates how these people with this condition would see it. Here's another one. And I think it's so important in nowadays society that people are actually able to access things. I also designed like an application for a blind person, which was purely based on voice. And I think it's so important that we think about inclusive design and really think about these little things that are so easy to test out. Then another example and another plugin that I really like is the Google Sheets plugin. So here I have a time slot, like table that really ranges from midnight until midnight again. So it's half an hour in 24 hours. So how did I get there? You designers think it took me an age to create this, but it didn't. So all I did was I created this time slot here, which is when I open the layer. It's just a text and the box. That's it. So when I click on this, I just hit repeat grid. I can drag this one out and this one down. I can change the gaps in between. So I have enough layers. So let's make it a 10. That should have enough. And now I have obviously everywhere the same time. And how do I get this 24 hours time in there? So I have created a Google Sheet. You can find that on my Behance. So my handle is always Stephanie number 4XD. And in here is my Google Sheets template. And it has the link to my Google Sheets with 10 minutes in 24 hours, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and 120 minutes. So all you have to do is you copy that link. You can also copy it from my Behance and just enter it right in there. So I run the Google Sheet plugin, and I say paste public link. Now I insert it. I hit continue, and I choose the 30 minutes one. And you can see that it just populated the entire table with the times until midnight again. So that's it. And all I had to do afterwards was obviously styling it, that the ones that are taken already, the ones that are still left, and the ones that is selected. So not so much work left to do. So XD, I want to highlight, XD is for free. So it's part of the Creative Cloud subscription. So let's get back into presentation mode again. It's part of the Creative Cloud. So if you have Creative Cloud, you have XD already. If you don't, you can download it for free. And yeah, I think now we have some more time for questions and answers.
Great.
Thank you, Stephanie and Johan.
Good job.
Well, there was a lot of stuff about XD and also, of course, the underlying technologies. Johan kind of launched a small competition here, which we are going to soon complete. But before doing that, are there any questions from the audience?
You can ask us anything.
Anything. I can demo even more.
Chance.
You still have 5 minutes to anything else you want to see.
I will ask one question about how you see. I mean, there's been some amount of discussion about how this, for instance, the kind of different type of intelligence is being increasingly built using different type of ecosystem approach. And you also nowadays have a growing number of different plugins, which were nicely illustrated here. Do you kind of keep a particular eye on different kind of plugins that have to deal with AI or different kind of techniques? For instance, can I, as a designer, be very trustful towards how my data and my designs are being treated by different type of plugins? Do you kind of make absolute guarantees that the work will be sandboxed in my local computer and doesn't kind of flow to the publishers of the plugins?
Yeah.
So we have a whole team in New York who is checking the plugins before they get released. But everybody really can build a plugin. You can even build a plugin and not release it. You can just build one for your own. So if you want internally to create something, there is in plugins is a link development, and there is development console, show developer folder, and create a plugin, and it gets you to a link that explains everything. So all you need to know is JavaScript. So if you're into that sort of thing, you can create your own and just run it from there, or you can try and get it official through our plugin team based in New York. So.
Yeah. So to just lift it more holistically, even Sensei, our framework, it's actually a framework where we're actually exposing it to data scientists. So we essentially think about the Adobe's creative kind of fabric. Since the 90s, you guys have been using Adobe's creative software. We've accumulated, from a machine learning perspective, the more data, from deep learning, the more data, the better, you can create models. What we're going to do now is we're going to expose, using Adobe I/O, the opportunity for data scientists and other people to integrate with a simple kind of a user interface and create solutions based on the models. We have hundreds of millions of stock images in Adobe stock kind of a catalog. Every photographer out there that actually uploads their image to that service means that they're actually feeding Sensei more data. If you're actually working with Creative Cloud and you have your data in Adobe Solutions, you're actually helping Sensei, doing very clever stuff. goes back now to initially your question. So how can you be sure from a software company how your data is handled? Of course, Adobe is a very reputable company, and we really take data privacy very seriously. So our framework is very, very developed. So it's gonna take very, very, very careful consideration into what kind of data that we share and not share. So the data that we were saying from Adobe stock perspective, if you go and search for a surfer and there's loads of surfer images, what Sensei will be doing with that data is that it will take and aggregate loads of information that can be useful to you as a user and also become much more clever. So one company was saying to me, look, we're helping Sensei become more clever. Can we get some kind of a, kind of a payment back? But it's the way it works, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you see...
Had one
is
in
there
the
a question?
audience.
Yeah, let's take that one.
Sorry?
I'll say it so everybody can hear it. I like this a lot. I think it's great. I think the whole notion you're doing is great. I was a Flash developer 2001, 2003, 4.
Me too.
And we had to build everything ourselves and program everything ourselves. And it meant every website got very customized. It was tedious, but it was incredibly reflective and interesting.
Yeah.
And when you started getting these pre-built buttons, it became very uninteresting to me, and I stopped. Now, it did make people go faster, but it did not make better experiences or more interesting, unique experiences. So the big question is, what's getting amputated?
In terms of how you use, do you mean in general when using plugins? That's going back to Sami's.
Talk a lot about speed, and I know speed
velocity.
is important
Yeah.
because I've done this.
Yeah.
But in one of the previous talks, it was about technology is great, it's doing this, but there's always the price. So what's the price on this? What's the amputation? What are we losing? Are we losing time to reflect?
That's a really good point. One of our founders of Behance, Scott Belsky, anyone knows Behance, the creative community? He actually posted something that ties into that. That's a very good question. It brings the opportunity to just quickly highlight it. Essentially, what he said was that, we all know in the age of AI, productivity, we're going beyond productivity anymore. It's not about chasing productivity. It's actually, we're coming to a point that if we want to chase velocity, want to do stuff fast, robots and AIs and algos can do that much faster than us. That's the amputation, right? But what we need to focus on then is, it ties into the flipping the AI to IA. What's going to happen then is that we need to chase creativity. We need to chase human creativity. So the amputation in this case here is you lose human creativity and you get speed. Your website will go faster. Yeah, you make more money, but in that case, you lose creativity. So what we need to do is we need to, have a new conversation. How we actually teach kids, when they go to school, what will they be learning? Creativity. And when we're actually looking at the new startups coming up, what will differentiate them? In the past, design was the key differentiator. I've been working in the advertising agencies in that space for so many years, that design has been the key differentiator. If you look at Apple, if you look at Nike and all those big brands, right? Now, what Scott is saying in his latest article is that, creativity will be the key differentiator if you want to tie it into the major discussion that we have here today, when machine learning and all of these guys are doing stuff faster than us. So that's a great question. Thank you.
I think this kind of brings us to a quite interesting scenario for the future in terms of that, are we going to see, for instance, agencies selling out services where you have like design, where you can kind of buy AI supercharged design, which is kind of quick, dirty, and cheap, or then you can kind of buy this kind of human-only
Premium
brain power,
yeah.
which will be much more costly and maybe more creative. Awesome. Okay, I think now we start to conclude with the competition that you have.
Yes, let's conclude the competition. So quickly, just raise your hands or just say, or scream. What's the name of Adobe's AI framework? Choose one, mister. Both of you. You get the Creative Cloud. Yeah. Oh, 1, 2, 3.
I think she was first and then here.
Great. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Let's have a coffee break.
Yeah.